episode of We Talk Talent Series Season 5, the show where we bring you insightful conversations with the HR leaders shaping the future of talent management. And today, we have a very special guest with us, a seasoned HR professional with over more than a decade of experience across leading Indian and multinational companies in FMCG industry, Abhishikta Tripathi. Abhishikta, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine, and more. Thanks a lot for having me here.
So before we dive into the discussion, I would like to give a brief introduction of today's speaker to our viewers. Abhishekta is currently leading the employer branding executive talent acquisition for 13 markets, mainly in South Asia Pacific and Middle East for bottling investments group of the Coca-Cola Company. With a proven track record and in the field of talent acquisition and management, she has been able to successfully help organizations across various stints in her career, create great workplace, become most attractive employers, and successfully attract top talent for the leadership roles. So starting with my first question, Abhishekta, according to you and your industry demands, what type of skill shortage do you think is causing the talent war?
Thank you so much for that brilliant question, Anmol. We have been hearing of talent wars since the time we've started. Since the dawn of time, there has been a skill shortage and a talent war that's always ensuing. I want to deep dive a little bit on what causes these talent wars typically. And in my experience, I think there are some different kinds of talent wars that we are dealing with. The first one is, lack of talent. And I've seen this in my experience in a couple of South Asian countries where there is a huge macroeconomic stress. So either the economy is not doing so well or there is instability. And hence the talent, the main motivation of the talent is to kind of leave the market and not be present there at all. What I actually have also seen is that there is a huge talent exodus from these markets, and hence there is a talent war between the companies because there are very few people who are left to work with. So that's one kind of talent war, and of course the kind of mitigations that are there would be very different. Apart from this, I have also had the good fortune of being part of some of the organizations who are industry leaders and who are absolutely trying to carve out new spaces and working on cutting edge innovation. And now that's a very different kind of talent war. What I mean is that when you are trying to create a new business or innovate, well, because you are the industry leader and that's the thing that you are expected to do next, the kind of talent war that you are actually having is not really trying to attract people from your similar industry. You are trying to create jobs which are absolutely new and being able to attract people who have not considered you as an industry. For example, let's say tech. So a couple of years back, there was this entire journey or change or escalation of all the FMCG organizations really establishing their e-commerce, digital businesses really well in India. It really became very fast during the COVID times. But what we saw at the time was there was really no talent, which is like-to-like talent. And that's where I would, delve into skills a little bit. So when there is no like-to-like talent, there is no person who's experienced in bringing your categories to your consumers. What you do is you look for surrogates. You look for people who have done a similar kind of work. And that's when you start talking about skills. So you start looking at what are some of the basic skills that are must have for this job to really happen. And that's how you mitigate this kind of talent war. Now, skills and skill shortage actually has a lot of reasons as well of being there as a prevalent phenomena. Skill shortage has come from a very long line of the feedback loop between the industry demand and what is actually done in the upskilling, maybe colleges, campuses, or even in other industries being very slow. So the things that you need today as a skill come back as a feedback to people who are actually developing it very late. So this entire lag of the feedback loop is something that has always been at play. So we have all heard of people graduating but not being employable. So graduates, postgraduates not being employable in India, and that's again a kind of skill shortage that we are going to face, and we are facing at intermittent level. Now, Anmol, the perspective that I wanted to bring at last was this is an ongoing phenomena. So, and it's not just in India, it's everywhere. Also in the view of the entire AI disruption that started with ChatGPT really making it very democratic. So last year in November, December, when ChatGPT was made so democratic, people were able to really see the power of generative AI. That's when it became even more deficit. So what it really means is that the skill gap continues to build, because the skills that we need today, we have not even been able to define, feed it back to where it is getting developed, even within an organization. And that brings me to my last conclusion, which basically is about having an innate growth mindset or learning mindset in people. So it really boils down to soft skills, actually.
So absolutely. Thank you for this insightful overview. Abhishekta, how do you see the importance of soft skills evolving in the future, as you said?
Perfect question, Anmol. I think what will make us differentiated from each other, and now I'm talking about human resources and people who actually form this talent group, is how we are in terms of our soft skills. Most of the hard skills that we talk about are easily replaced, easily learned. It's basically knowledge. And in many times, and of course, it comes with a lot of expertise as well. Now, soft skills are the ones that are really going to differentiate. And one particular soft skill, which is in most of the organizations, you would hear Anmol are now adopting this across their organization, which is about adopting a growth mindset. So understanding what I have currently, understanding my own assessment, and working on what interests me, what excites me, and how can I then be ready for future, coming from the person or herself or himself, is the future. So defining your own soft skill learning journey and really working on it is the future. If you see right now, the skills are not really restricted to what you learn at the job. So there was a time when, and there's still a time, that we talk about 70-20-10, where 70% of your capabilities are being built on the job while you are experiencing, where you're doing different things. 20 is through mentoring from your superiors, and 10 finally is through trainings, etc., that you undergo. So basically, this 70-20-10 approach is no longer valid, because there are a lot of areas that you learn in your personal life, for example. And people from the most recent Gen Z, that generation, can really help us understand how this is done. All of them have a gig of their own, a personal agenda of their own, a personal project of their own, which helps them learn a lot of things which are very transferable. So how do you do, really utilize AI? And I've seen a lot of people at work who you really utilize AI really well are the ones who are very invested in it in their personal lives or personal projects. So it's really not restricted to you learning or somebody learning it in the organization, the skill development happening in the organization, but looking at people more holistically and all their personal achievements coming together. So that's why the soft skills become even more important as we step into the future, the new future, powered by AI.
Yeah, great points, really great points. So moving forward, Abhishekta, can you shed some light on your employer branding strategy and how it has evolved over the past few years?
Sure. Thanks for that question, Anmol. And I have been lucky to see employer branding grow as a vocation, as a function in HR in last 10 years or so, because I remember one of my first jobs was to take care of employer branding, and started very small at the time. but now it's an ever-growing, in-demand skill. To cut to 10 years later, it's still very relevant. So the relevance has grown a lot, Anmol, I would say. And there are several factors which has driven this prevalence of employer branding, for sure. But what has essentially remained the same is the need for organizations to communicate what can you expect when you join us, and the need for potential employees to understand what can I expect when I join you. So that's the basic need which has sort of remained the same. What has changed, Anmol, in my view, and I say this a little bit with lightheartedness, is the focus on really creating really high production videos. I think that is changing a lot. It has now become, just like you would expect personal grooming in an interview. So it's a given more than anything else. But what has become very important is the authenticity and genuineness with which you are articulating your employer brand. You're giving a glimpse of what to expect when you join us. So this has become like really big in the last 2 to 3 years, and you would see the number of very authentic, genuine, but very mid-level budget productions really going live and really making an impact with the future employees. Because all we want to know, even if we don our candidate hat on or employee hat on, is how will it feel if I join this organization? What's in it for me? What are the opportunities that I get? So answering those questions very genuinely, authentically, that's the trend that has changed. And I feel it's an amazing change, because that's what we have been trying to communicate anyway all the time. It's not about the jargons that you use anymore in employer branding. It's really about keeping it real. So that's one big thing that I have noticed in terms of how we have started communicating, as most organizations have started communicating. The other thing is also, there was a time when, Anmol, EVP was kind of articulated for external people. And that's where I want to give you a Coca-Cola example. I was lucky to understand, and I was super impressed when, our EVP is called Thrive with Coca-Cola. And that's really not something that we articulated for people externally. How it really happens is that our entire HR system, so be it careers, learning and development, short-term assignments, anything which helps you grow, is all under this entire branded umbrella of Thrive with Coca-Cola. So it basically is about creating this great atmosphere, culture for internal employees, and then talking about it externally. Vis-a-vis, creating a huge tagline, which is only for external people, which doesn't resonate much with internal people, or resonates to some extent with internal people. So I love that transition also that is happening. So EVP articulation is not an entirely independent exercise, but it comes from your HR practices. I feel that's also something which brings us very close to the truth and very close to really articulating how it's like to work with this organization. So in all, if you see, it's all about authenticity and genuineness with which we can communicate about the organization to people inside as well as outside the organization.
That's really interesting. So, Abhishikta, you have been at the forefront of human resources for quite some time. And if you can share some of the prominent challenges you face in the talent acquisition space, and also if you can talk about the strategies that you follow to overcome.
Sure. So I've always thought, Anmol, of talent acquisition as the most exciting place for an organization to be. Most organizations who are evolved won't really just go for talent acquisition very lightly. What they would do, of course, is go to the entire gamut of really developing their people well in advance before you get a chance to hire somebody. Right, so the entire talent management process is before talent acquisition in most organizations, evolved organizations that I have worked for. Now, the most challenging areas or roles or businesses that you're trying to build is what is left with talent acquisition. So I love that about this entire discipline, entire function, that we get to hire the most challenging ones, where either we are trying to create a new role, create a new function, or trying to get people, top talent from outside to really help us get more perspective from outside. So this has always, I think, been a basic premise-led challenge for talent acquisition, and I love it because solving it is so much fun. That's why the talent acquisition professionals have to be absolutely on top of what's really happening outside. So what is happening with other businesses? How have other businesses solved this problem of really needing a certain kind of talent to set up a new business or a new innovative venture? All right, so that's the part that I find very interesting in talent acquisition challenges, and I find most interesting to solve as well.
Yeah, absolutely. These are important points to consider. Thank you, Abhishekta, for sharing a valuable perspective with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on this show. And for our viewers, let's continue to learn and grow together. And do not forget to tune in to the next episode of the We Talk Talent series. Have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you.